Well, hello everyone, welcome back to Dprieto TV. We are already on episode 3 of season 4 of Prietology, and what a good episode we got today. The Landlubbers. We're talking about geography essentially, part 2 that I said. So things like landforms, mountains, plateaus, islands, coasts. We got a lot of stuff happening. Exciting video will be coming on September 3rd, which is the next video, so get excited for that. That'll be interesting. So yeah, let's waste no more time. Let's go over the key terms. So yeah, our key terms, we got more than 5. We had 5 last time. I'm going this side. Where's my marker? There it is. We only got 7 today, not much, but it's going to be an exciting one. I'll tell you that. We even have our demonstration, like I said, will be happening every episode. So let's get down to business. We have continent, mountain range, plateaus, rift valley, peninsula, island, and coast. So yeah, let's get started. Well, for our first term, there's a pretty big chance that you're on one of these big land masses. It's continents. There are 7 of them in the world: Africa, Antarctica, Asia, Australia, Europe, North America, and South America in alphabetical order if you want them. They are the biggest land masses on Earth. So if you remember our... Oh, let me get my map. If you remember the map that we used last episode, go check it out over here. Here's our map. We see our 7 land masses. Yeah, that's pretty much it. These land masses can be moved around by tectonic plates, and a lot in this episode is going to reference some things from the first episode from when we did it. So tectonic plates, remember those plates that jostle and move around on the Earth's crust? They move around and jostle up the continents, which makes fault lines and earthquakes and stuff like that. These continents, like places like South America are full of them, Asia sometimes, they're full of rocks and minerals that can be used for resources like steel, for conspicuous consumption, for stuff like precious stuff like diamonds and jewels. So yeah, a lot of these continents come chock full with resources. That's why it's pretty valuable to stay on a continent than an island. Fun fact, let's go back to our map. Europe, which is right here, North America, which is also right here, and South America, all those continents are able to fit inside Asia. That tells you how big Asia is. It's massive. It can fit Europe, North America, and South America in it. But you might be asking, hey, but isn't North America like super big? It's like almost as big as... That's because like usually sometimes globes extend and overextend the dimensions of some continents because it's hard to make a flat image from a sphere. Yeah, that's pretty much the reason why you see some countries like Greenland. Like if we go back to our map, we see that Greenland's almost the size of Africa. No, it's not the case. It's pretty small compared to Africa. So yeah, second term, let's go. Well, here's something with some age. It's mountain ranges. We already talked about mountain ranges a little bit in the first episode when we talked about the basics of geology. They're the collision zones between plates that divides the continent. So if we go back to our map, we'll be using the map a lot if you haven't seen yet. Places like the Ural Mountains, which are in Russia, like literally about here. Those are that's where 2 plates collide. Essentially, the borders between both continents, where the crust just folds up like that, and then it creates mountain ranges. The taller and more jagged mountain ranges are going to be younger. So basically, if something like more tall, if it's taller like that, it's more cracked and jagged and weird looking, it's going to be younger. So basically that means like recently some plates collided and made a mountain going like that. I don't have the paper with me, but let me see if I can find it to explain the third concept. I also found this. Remember this from the first episode when we drew the collision lines? The fault lines, rather. Yeah, so basically it's kind of like continents and borders. So yeah, what I was going to say is, remember when we talked about anti-ranges when we talked about mountains? Remember, so my example of, let me put the clip up here. Here's the clip. You remember the folding paper thing where the anti-ranges poke into the mantle, so it's kind of like an accordion effect. The top goes up front, the other one dives into the mantle, into the searing lava of the mantle, and yeah. Basically, it's kind of like an accordion effect with ranges, with the mountain ranges, and anti-range. Fun fact, Mount McKinley, which I think is in Alaska, yes. Mount McKinley is the highest mountain in North America, if you did not know that, located in Alaska. It stands at a remarkable 20,320 feet. I don't know what that is in kilometers, so yeah. Let's move on to the third term. Alright, you want to learn some French? Well, here we go. We have our term plateau. You've probably heard this before. It's an elevated flat landform. When I say flat, I mean incredibly flat. Usually grassy, grasslands at the top, so flat grasslands. Similar to a mountain, similar to a hill, you basically kind of combine the both. To be classified as a plateau, it has to be at least 1,500 feet or 1,500 feet. So Mount McKinley, like we said before, that's not a plateau. It's way too high, 20 times higher than this. Elevated landform, it consists of a top, a flat top, and steep sides going like so. Essentially, imagine a trapezoid. It's got a flat top like that and steep sides like that. Yeah, that's kind of like a plateau. Has some grasslands and stuff on top. There are usually 3 types of plateaus. There's not specific terminology, but there's just ways to like classify what plateau is, and that's how they're made. There's one plateau which is made from mountain ranges, so like fallen mountain ranges, stuff like collisions of plates. There's one made from crust, which is like kind of like also like I said, the collision of plates. The first one is more of like deteriorated mountain ranges that just wear out over time. The second one is more of the collision of plates that doesn't make a tall mountain, just kind of goes like that. It doesn't make too tall of a mountain. And the third one is from erosion, from like lava flows and stuff like that that come away and erase lava. They come away and then just melt away the plateau and mountain into a plateau. Wind erosion, water erosion, different types of erosion. We'll talk about erosion later in the series. Yeah, that's basically kind of what plateaus are. Fun fact, they're also called tablelands. That kind of makes sense. Tables are flat, it's a landform. So yeah, if it's a tableland, it's nice and flat. So like this table that all this stuff is on right now, the table that has all the stuff right now, this could be considered a plateau if it was a naturally occurring landform, which is not. Try saying this term fast 4 times. Rift Valley, Rift Valley, Rift Valley, Rift Valley. Sounds like I'm saying Rift Valley, but it's Rift Valley. Rift valleys are pretty interesting. They're giant cracks in the earth caused by the pulling of crust. Like you remember tectonic activity pulling crust apart, and it makes a flat floor, kind of like our plateaus, and a steep wall. So basically it's kind of like an inverted plateau. If we take our trapezoid, we turn it upside down, it's a flat floor and then steep tops going like that up. So yeah, that's what rift valleys are. There's lots of activity inside rift valleys, like volcanoes, like a lot of geological activity, since the crust is being pulling apart closer to the mantle, closer to the heat. Hot spots, remember what we learned in the first episode, can occur here. This can be things like volcanoes, hot springs, and stuff like that. A lot of geological activity. The largest in the world, like in the world that you can find, are not located on land, on our landforms. They're located on the sea, on the seabed. So places like the abyss, giant cracks. I think the Mariana Trench is a great rift valley, and then with Challenger Deep being the deepest point of the earth. Yeah, those are giant rift valleys, and then you can go super, super, super deep, and it gets super dark inside. So yeah, that's basically kind of what rift valleys are. Fun fact, the length of the Great Rift Valley, which I think is the largest in the world on land, it's located in Africa, I think. Yeah, near Kenya and Tanzania. 3,700 miles. All right, we are here at our 5th term. We can find these all over the world. It's peninsulas. Peninsulas are actually interesting. There's the Yucatan Peninsula, Florida Peninsula, Arabian, Iberian. There's a ton of peninsulas out there. Korean Peninsula. It's a piece of land that essentially kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. So if I have my hand like this, say this is the shoreline, this, like say like I have my fist like this, essentially this, like kind of sticking out like this would be the peninsula. So imagine Florida. Here, I'll put up a map of the United States right there. We have Florida right there, kind of sticks out to the side. That is a peninsula, sticks out from the shoreline. It is almost completely surrounded by water. And the water that touches it is usually from giant landforms of water, so like oceans and seas. It has to be almost completely surrounded by water, otherwise it would be another landform, which we will talk about in a bit. It has to be classified as a peninsula. It has to be longer than it is wide. So imagine Florida. If it was, like Florida's pretty long and like long length, and it's not super wide, it's kind of thin. Or places like the Iberian Peninsula are much longer than they're wide. The Yucatan is longer than it is wide. Korea, yes. Iberian, yes. The Arabian, yes. Yeah, so essentially to be classified as a peninsula, it has to be longer than it is wide. Fun fact, I'll give you a wow. Guess the world's longest peninsula. Alright, it's the Arabian Peninsula. Let's go back to our map. The Arabian Peninsula is literally lives up to its name. It includes Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Yemen, Oman. It's by, if you look at our map here, I'll get the map a little closer. It's by right there. Right there with that little blue spot that says Saudi Arabia. That is our Arabian Peninsula. It has the Red Sea, Persian Gulf right by it in between. So the Red Sea is the part touching Africa, and the Persian Gulf is the part touching Asia, and places like Iran right next to it. And then to the south, it's the Arabian Sea. Alright, we only got 2 more terms to go. Let's get to our penultimate term. Alright, we are at our penultimate term. We are technically on an island, but yeah, let's talk about islands. Islands are essentially can be found in any body of water. Australia, Hawaii, I'm looking at my map right now. The Malaysian Islands, Madagascar, Maldives, Sri Lanka, Iceland, England, Japan. It's everywhere across the world. They're very, well, they're not small landforms, but they can basically almost be in any type of body of water. They have to be completely surrounded by water, because remember what a peninsula is, almost completely surrounded by water. Islands have to be completely to be considered an island, and it can't be as big as like a continent, because continents are not islands. Islands have to be like the size of Greenland or Hawaii or Madagascar to be considered island. They can make multiple islands, so a chain of islands, like, let's go back to our map. The Caribbean islands, or places like Indonesia that are multiple islands, those are called archipelagos, which are basically chains of islands, a group of islands. So like Hawaii, that is an archipelago. Malaysia, that is an archipelago. What else do we got? Caribbean, like places like the Bahamas, that's an archipelago. Maldives are an archipelago. Like I said, it has to be surrounded by water. Rivers and canals, they do not count. They do not count as a big enough body of water to make an island. Like if you find a rock, if you find like a big rock in the middle of a river, that does not count as an island. It has to be completely surrounded by something like an ocean, sea, gulf, bay, or whatever. Fun fact, the smallest island in the world, it's not one of the Micronesian islands, it's not Hawaii, it's not Madagascar, Iceland, Greenland, Japan. It's a rock, literally, it's called Bishop Rock. It's in the UK. It's like the size of the table. So like do you see this? Like, you see the table where we're doing our filming and stuff like that? Oh, microphone. Like, the table where we're doing our filming, it's about the size of that. It's very small. Alright? So yeah, Bishop Rock in the UK, the smallest island in the world. Yeah, we got one more term to go, and this one's actually pretty interesting. It's going to go into a lot of stuff what's leading up to in the next episode. This term right here doesn't really like to boast, but it can. It's a coast. It's one of the most interesting terms. Our final term of this episode, coasts. You see them everywhere around the world. They're the border between land and water, the world of the land and terra and terrestrial things, and the underwater world of the seas and the ocean. So, the border between all our continents, every single landform in the entire world, this guy's in all of them. The coast. It can resist multiple types of erosion. So places like water erosion from storms and hurricanes sweeping onto the island, it can resist all that. It can resist wind erosion, like I said, from hurricanes and sea storms. It can resist a lot of stuff, but in the result of that, the minerals and rocks that are found at the coast are very fine. So like sand has to resist a lot of punching and stuff like that from wind and water erosion. That's why I see sand very fine, or places like, yeah, a lot of sand. Like if you go to the coast, you'll see a lot of sand. Those are fine rock made from erosion. We'll talk about erosion a little later in the next episode. I don't want to spoil too much. Coasts can come in many forms. They can go in any forms around the world. Fjords, beaches, coves, bays. Beaches are obviously the big one they've seen. So like beaches like Venice Beach in California, Long Beach, California as well. Beaches in Mexico, Asia. Those are all coasts. It's specifically the border between land and water. A border between land and a river, that's not a beach. It has to be a big landform. Fun fact, the East Yorkshire coast in the United Kingdom is one of the fastest eroding coasts in the world. It's taking a big beating right now. Well, it has been taking a big beating. It's eroding fast. But that's why usually in like places like England, you see like the coast is about, let's say the sea is about here. This is like sea level, so imagine this is the sea. The coast is like on a cliff. Like that. That's how big it's like. That's how big it is because of erosion and things like that. All right, let's do our demo just to demonstrate our different landforms. It's going to be an interesting one. We're using kinetic sand. Okay, time for our demonstration. As you see, I have a package of kinetic sand. I'm going to open it. This will help represent our landforms and like the different activity that can be found around them, like quakes, like earthquakes, tectonic plates, like we talked about, continents, coasts, plateaus, and landforms. All right. Our first term was a continent, so essentially this is our big landmass. This is like, let's say this is North America or somewhere like that. This is our giant landmass. Mountain ranges are essentially, let's make up two plates. This is our essentially, let's say these are our plates. Essentially is when plates collide like that. And as you can see, when I collide them like that, it builds up. This is our mountain range, and it can build up like that and that and that, and then essentially that's how plates are formed. It's very not the greatest example, but you kind of get the idea. Plateaus, essentially, they can be built up. Remember, from our three ways they can be built up. They can be made of like mountain ranges. So like, let's get our mountain range back. If our mountain ranges erode, so let's take a piece off. Let's say it erodes like that. There you see, it's a little flatter. that would be our plateau. It can be made from crust, so let's get a bit of sand. So essentially we can have our plateaus made from that. There you see it's a little flat. It's not the greatest example. And then lava erosion, I obviously can't get lava right here right now because I don't want to burn my hands off. So yeah, Rift valleys, remember that we learned, are giant cracks in the earth. So if we get let's make our landform again. Essentially, they can be born. I'm going to take the map off because the map is making it slide around. Our rift valleys can be made from the pulling of crust. So let me see if I can pull it properly. There you see it like that. And it can make giant fissures, well, giant cracks in the earth. So a rift valley would kind of be like a giant crack in the earth, so kind of like a canyon-ish, but it's not a canyon because those are built from like erosion and stuff. They are built from tectonic plates, so these plates pulling each other apart like that, these are the things that make a rift valley. Our final one, peninsula, so let's make our peninsula. So let's say this is our landmass. I'm going to take a bit of sand. This, let's say, is our landmass. Let's make North America. Let's make the U.S. This might take me a while to make the U.S. Alright, that's my best interpretation of the U.S. Now let's make Florida. Florida would essentially go right there. This is our peninsula. As you can see, it could stick out massively. And essentially, it has to be longer than it is wide to be classified as a peninsula. Our second to last one, islands. So let's say these are our islands. The blue, obviously, is our water. So essentially, these are our islands. These are the ones that are completely surrounded by water. So these would be considered islands. And the coasts, as you can see, it's more frayed and a little fragile around the coast. So you can see like there, it's a little like more, not like solid complete. Like you see it falling from my hand. These would be our coasts. They're more beat up and naturally occurring from erosion. So yeah, those are the ones that usually like take a lot of the beating and on the border of the land and the water. All right, let's get on to announcements. Whew. All right, cleaned up the sand. Let's get on to announcements. We got some good ones. Which one do I want to do first? Let's do the first one first. It's been a long while since I started this channel. Since the summer of 2019, I made the that video, our first vacation. I filmed it on my phone. Actually, let's give you behind the scenes. Let's do a little story time. Or do I want to say that for the video? Yeah, I'll say it for the video. Speaking of the video, the next video on September 3rd is the 3-year anniversary video of Dprieto TV. It's been 3 years since I've started this channel. Look where it's evolved. We have Prietology, we have gaming, we have travel, we have reviews, we have vlogs, we have specials. A ton of stuff has evolved over these last 3 years, and I want to thank you guys for being a part of every single moment of it for the past 3 years. You've gotten me really excited, and you've got a lot of videos planned for the future. So yeah, September 3rd. Don't miss it. It might be a premiere. I'm still thinking about it. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Our next episode is essentially going to be... Oh, right. I have to do a drum roll. Next episode... Oh boy, I don't want to knock over my plasma clove. It's cost a lot of money. Geography. Again, we're doing Geography Part 3. It's our last Geography part, coming on September 17th. But now we've talked about geography like latitude, longitude last episode. Today we talked about landforms. Water forms are next. Oceans, rivers, seas, delta. And when we get to talk about the mystical force behind all these land and water forms, erosion. That is the main playing character behind all this stuff. So get excited, coming September 17th. So yeah, everyone, thanks for watching. I'll see you in 2 weeks for the 3-year anniversary video. See ya.